The tremendous attendance here tonight is testimony to what we have all come to know, that Ari Shavit has written a watershed book which has reshaped discussions and the narratives that we typically and historically used in describing Israel.
I've had the pleasure of reading Ari's challenging book and spending some time talking with him. I heard him speak twice this week, first on Monday afternoon on a panel at the AIPAC Policy Conference, where his audience was riveted, and last night when he accepted the National Jewish Book Award in History for My Promised Land. As he's traveled around the U.S. these last couple of months, he's focused on meeting with young people on college campuses, recognizing that the future of the American-Jewish relationship with Israel rests with them.
This book was obviously meant to be an intervention in the American debate and talk about Israel. And so I wanted to ask you, given that this is a book about Israel, I wanted to ask you a question about America, which is, as you've gone and you've traveled around and you've gotten to see the debate here up close, not just writing about it from Israel, what's your impression about the way that Americans and American Jews think and talk about Israel?
Look, I published an article today, not in your paper. That's the next one.
Give me a break.
but in my own Haaretz paper.
Fair enough.
That said the following. It was after spending time in the AIPAC conference in Washington this week, and actually it was an accumulation of my feelings of the last few months. And basically what I see, I said it in the article, is I see a very strong and troubling division, a striking generation gap. Basically, people who are 70 and beyond have the Holocaust as their context, even if they did not experience it. And therefore, they are religiously committed to Israel. People who are 50 and beyond remember pre-67 Israel. And even if they criticize and they have discontent, it's still in them. They cannot resist it. People under 30 are completely different because they have a real dual experience. On the one hand, there is the attraction of high-tech Israel, startup nation, the Tel Aviv thing, the birthright hormone thing. But on the other hand, it's the settlers' nation, it's the ultra-Orthodox, it's an Israel they cannot come to terms with.
So be more precise on what you think the actual root cause is. Do you think it exists? Is it diaspora Judaism hasn't done a great job of transmitting love for Judaism to this generation? When you say it's the government's fault, you place the blame squarely on policies, or do you think it's that that the government, the state of Israel, needs to do a better job of tending to opinion in diaspora Judaism?
See is the fact that this younger generation, we have to, I think that people who are progressive get it anyhow intuitively. But what I say to conservative people, people on the right, that never mind what their opinions are, they have to realize that the younger generation is a progressive generation. I don't know, perhaps in 10 years' time, in 20 years' time, we'll have some revival of conservative, young conservative thinking. Right now, we are talking about a generation that is into universal values, into social justice. Their religion is the religion of human rights. And Israel is perceived as a tribal entity. And there is a deep tension between their values and this perception of Israel. By the way, parts of the Jewish establishment in this country is perceived the same way.
Do you think that the state of Israel, the Jewish establishment here, they clearly understand on some level that there's a problem, but it's so entangled with the complex psychology of dealing with this issue, and dealing with the also very real movement to delegitimize the state. Do you think that they're capable of, or anywhere close to being capable to making the types of adjustments that you're describing?
I'm hopeful. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
But, and I'll give you again an example from the experience I had with my own book. I think that some of the openness that I experienced with people whom I thought would have more difficulty with my book was because of that, because people actually feel that something is wrong with the way we did it. Mm-hmm. Perhaps it was right for 20 years ago, but there is, what was so striking about some of the rhetorics you hear from the Israeli leaders, that what is said is right in many ways, but it lost the energy, it lost the conviction. It's not relevant in so many ways in the way it is delivered. And I think more and more people get it, and they get the fact that we must change.
I'm sorry to dwell here, because but I do feel like this is in so many ways the ball game, right? That this is where the be all and the end all of the debate, because I know the question is, what is there's a substantive adjustment that needs to be made, is what you're arguing, but also a rhetorical adjustment that needs to get made. And you've just described something that's very much at the heart of the problem, which is that if there's a sense of Jewish comfort here, some of the kind of existential reasons why the Jewish people need the state of Israel aren't readily apparent. How do you rekindle the feelings of love if it's not going to be on the basis of Jewish survival? It's hard to rekindle the idealism of the early state. How do we what sort of rhetorical adjustments need to be made?
Look, I think that there is really, again, while being critical, I think that let's put it this way: being critical and realistic, and taking Israel out of the cliche it became, by the way, by cliche for both the ones who love it and the ones who hate it. I think it enables us really to love ourselves. And my claim that I'll say it in a sentence, I think that we have to acknowledge the fact that in many ways we are a remarkable species and we are an endangered species. Mm-hmm. And if we understand both, which is in my mind so self-evident, but we somehow lost the sight of these self-evident truths, then we can look both at our history and at our present and future in a new way.